One way that I built my money fast, maybe faster than expected, is by being willing to relocate. I ended up moving to places that technically paid less. They were willing to pay 20,000 or 30,000 more to get my knowledge and my skills, even though the location didn't warrant that kind of pay. Hey y'all, welcome back to the Fast Forward Podcast. I was going to go in a totally different direction for the remaining two episodes of February and then also for my March episodes. But some extenuating circumstances had me kind of reflect and change course. And I actually just want to flow with y'all. The world is in chaos right now. And while I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time getting into the nitty gritty of politics, because that's not the purpose of this podcast, I do want to speak in particular to Black professionals. So my goal for February, let me back up a little bit. My original goal for February was that I wanted to have on 4 Black male guests. I wanted the world to hear some different perspectives of Black men that perhaps they're used to hearing. One of the things that I really want to communicate to the Black men who are going to be listening to this, especially the younger Black men, so I'd say between the ages of 16 to 30, is the importance of mastery. I have been shocked over the past, I would say 3 or 4 years, at how the vitriol that is spewed online from Black male voices we hear. As a coach, as a former corporate executive, as an organizational psychologist, I see it from a particular lens. And in my head, all I could think of is these folks are upset because they missed maximizing some phases. Here's what I mean by that. And I can't remember if I've addressed this on the podcast. I think I did, but for the ladies. There are certain things that society is set up for you to accomplish in certain times. So society is set up such that by the time you are age 8, you should know how to tie your shoes or go to the potty by yourself or go do these things so that by the time you get to 2nd and 3rd grade, there is not an expectation of a teacher needing to help you with that. If there is, then you would require special services. Here's why that's important. Because every phase of life is like that. There are certain things that society is set up for you to have completed by the time you turn 18, by the time you turn 25, by the time you turn 30, by the time you get to 50. And when you move outside of that norm, there, in best case scenarios, are special assistances or special assistance services that are set up to help you either get to the milestone or thrive even if you aren't able to complete that milestone. That's not always the case. And what we are seeing in particular right now, because of the shift in political landscape and so much of the craziness that is happening in this country right now, some things that we took for granted as a social safety net could easily be ripped away by one person or one group of people if they just feel like it shouldn't be there. And so what I would challenge, especially younger Black men to do, is to pursue mastery. Here is what I mean by mastery. Mastery means that you maximize what is possible for you in that phase of your life. So, for example, if you are 15, 16 years old, your main goal should be to get a high school diploma and GED and to secure your spot in whatever your next thing is. So if that next thing is trade school, the military, college, job, straight going into works, apprenticeships, whatever it is, that needs to be your main focus. As much as you can, try to either eliminate or mitigate all the noise that's going to distract you from doing that. Because if you don't get that high school diploma or GED and secure your spot in that next thing for the next phase, it only becomes more difficult to do it later on because life be lifing and things keep happening. Similarly, if you are what is it, like 19 to 25, your main goal needs to be to secure some type of documentation to prove that you have learned some skill or completed some educational or training milestone, and get at least 2 years of work experience if possible, unless you're choosing to go on to some type of grad school program, because that's a little different. But the goal is to get either some type of license, certificate, uh, college degree, some type of finish. You can finish one enlistment, right? So maybe you did 4 years, something to say that you completed some type of major development activity over the course of the years between 19 and 25, and then get a couple of years of work experience, preferably in your field or some related field. You don't have to become a VP by 25. You don't have to, be a real estate investor by 25. Most people are not expecting that of very young people. Those are what we would call research outliers, meaning you either too far at the low end or too far at the high end. Most people sitting right there in that middle ground, and that's cool. Social media makes you feel like the goal is to be an outlier. No, the goal is to maximize toward that middle. So if the average, which it is in anything, is usually about 50% straight in the middle, you edging toward the 75th percentile is doing great, right? Because you still beating out 3/4 of the other people who are involved in what you're involved in. So again, 19 to 25 needs to be focused on mastery of some type of documented skill or a documented education and a couple of years of work history. That's your main goal. Now, what are you trying to avoid between the ages of 14 and 25? Having babies. That's the number one thing. You do not want to start running down your pockets before you have a chance to stack your pockets. So we are not focused on starting a family. We are not focused on having kids. We're not focused probably even necessarily on getting married. We're not focused on any of that. We could date. We can have great relationships. We can explore to learn the type of partner that we want to be with and our, must haves, nice to have. Definitely don't want all of that's lovely. Love that for you. But we don't want to get distracted with things that are financial liabilities. Babies are beautiful, blessings from God. Love that for everybody who is a parent, but that does not need to be your portion between the ages of 14 and 25. Now, by the time you get to 26, this is where, particularly as a man, and this is from my own observation, is for me working in HR, so seeing the actual trajectories of people's money, career pathways, etc. Age 26 is where I have seen most Black men flounder professionally because they lack peer mentors and solid peer relationships, and they lack mentors and sponsors. And at the point where you get to like about 3 years of experience in your field, this is where mentors and sponsors become very important, because it becomes less about just sheerly being able to complete tasks and more about being able to build relationships, being able to make good decisions, being able to play politics really well to get access to certain stretch opportunities. And this is in any industry. It's not just in corporate America. So I'll give you an example. When I bought my house, because it's new construction, you have a 12-month inspection. It's really the 11-month inspection, because by month 12, after that, they say whatever happened in your house is your fault. But if it's up to month 12, they have it, insured and it's under warranty. They'll come and fix it. And that could be anything from nail pops to cracks, because the house settles. Also, sometimes the wall or the drywall will crack a little bit, door gaps, all kind of stuff, just little stuff, right? Or even major things. So the person who came to do my 11-month inspection, he was a young Hispanic man. And I was like, I could tell he was very, very young. And I'm like, well, he got to be 18, because there's no way they would have him out in something like this without at least a person, right? Another person, a buddy. But I was like, he can't even be 25. And sure enough, when I was talking to him, he was like, yeah, I'm like 20 years old. And I was like, how long have you been doing this? And he said, yeah, I've been doing it like 2 years. And I'm preparing so I could take the GC exam next year because in the state of Georgia, which is where I live now, you have to be at least 21 to be a general contractor. And he was like, I'm preparing now and I've mastered, I think he said he had his certifications or licenses in like three things. I think it was electrical, painting, and it was something else. But because again, in Georgia, and I looked this up, y'all, because I thought I was going to start investing in real estate. Don't ask. I'm not doing that. But you have to, I think it's something like you have to have mastered like two trades or something, or have had experience in a couple of trades, and you got to take classes and stuff. It's a lot. But anyway, he had mentors who, and I think they were in his family and family friends who got him ready so that he started with quote unquote the menial job in this construction company and eventually started working for builders, just doing these inspections. And to be clear, the inspection is literally him just walking through my house, me pointing out this is what's wrong, because I had to get all of that together in advance. So it was like, if again it's a crack, point it out, he gonna put some tape, and then he gonna send out the contractors to come fix that, blah, blah, blah. Why this is important is because number one, the builder who I bought my home from, they are building like crazy all over Georgia, and I'm pretty sure they're building all over the country. Additionally, in Georgia, any project that is over $2,500, which includes both labor and parts and materials, you have to have a general contractor on it. Y'all, that's pretty much everything. When I bought the doors, I got barn doors in certain parts of my house. The doors alone was $400, and I had to get three of them. So that right there was $1,600. Oh, nobody is only gonna charge $200 to put some doors on. So right there, even just getting barn doors installed in my house, technically I was required to have a general contractor, right? If it was something that I needed permitted, you need a GC for everything. This young man being set up before 21 to be a general contractor quite literally just set him up for life, because there are tons of projects where somebody is the GC kind of in name only, and they just provide referrals to different things. I mean, it's a lot of ways you can get money as the GC. I'm going to say that. I was so fascinated by the clarity he had on the past. So, of course, y'all know I'd be nosy. So I'm like, let me ask him, how you do that? Like, what you doing? And he explained it. He told me straight up, he said, yeah, I had people in my family and they got me put on with this company to work and do the menial tasks. And so I've been growing with them. So this is getting me the experience that I need, because with the education part, you can sub out a certain number or percentage of the education for experience. So he's getting that. Plus, it probably is nothing for them to just pay for them to take some classes at a community college or somewhere else about just construction management. He is now set up for life. That's what I mean. Brought him up because a lot of times when we talk mastery, we highlight lawyers, doctors, engineers, and that's very important. I got some examples of that too. But I wanted to highlight how even with the trades, even doing what's considered blue collar work, mastery is possible by 25. What can you prove that you know how to do and that you've been trusted to do? That's the whole goal. And I want you to be careful about that, because it doesn't mean you can't change careers later. It doesn't mean that you can't have side hustles or other interests. It just means that you got to get grounded in something, because the outcome of you getting grounded in something is that you significantly boost your earning potential. You also significantly boost your access to a network that can help you thrive regardless of economic volatility. And it also sets you up to be able to build your self-confidence and your self-esteem. And that is incredibly important. Most of the men who I know who are particularly angry right now, part of their anger stems from the fact that even if they remain consistently employed, which a lot of them didn't, they went through large gaps of unemployment throughout their adult years, whether they'll admit that to y'all or not. But they had gaps in unemployment. They had gaps in their employment. And because of the gaps in the employment and the lack of skill mastery and skill development, they go from job to job. They don't have a career. And that's the big thing. So when I talk about my career in HR, and y'all have heard me say many times, I'm like an accidental HR professional. But once I accidentally fell into the industry, I had the wherewithal to be like, let me keep getting jobs in this and build out my skill set here. Now I could pretty much write my own ticket, and I write my own paycheck through the work that I do, and can move and navigate through this world in a number of ways. So I want you all, again, to be mindful of what mastery can mean for you. Find something that you can get a piece of paper from a reputable, accredited institution that says you know how to do this, and then get some experience in it so you can build that earning potential, that network, and your self confidence. Now, let's talk about keep talking about 26. I would say 26 to 30. I almost want to say 35, but let's stop at 30 for a second, because 26 to 30 is where most men hit, again, this is just my observation, they hit a fork in the road where they're either going to play a whole lot, or they going to reluctantly get married, like meaning they probably come from a family of men who are married, and so they just feel pressure to settle down, but they really not ready to be a husband. Or they are husband minded, and so they're like, hey, I need to get married and settle down with a partner. I am pro marriage, not just because of my religious beliefs. That's part of it, but I'm pro marriage because I know for a fact that married men earn more, have more respect in the workplace, and are typically much more likely to thrive professionally, because dating around, having multiple families that you have to contribute to, is a distraction and a wallet drain. I don't know any other way to say that. And I'm saying it as a woman. All the men who I know who have multiple kids by multiple women, who didn't get married, they stay with a long, because most men not gonna be single. Let's keep it a buck. Most men are not gonna be not dating. You're gonna be dating somebody, you're gonna be talking to somebody. But the men I know who got to juggle 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 women, pay for all of these dates. You got this, these clothes of this person, how this. It's a lot. It's a lot to manage. It's a lot to keep up with the line. It's a lot to keep up with the cost. It's a lot to keep up with the mental, emotional, and spiritual energy. It is a lot, and it's really not worth it. So if you are the person who you on the fence at 26, know and recognize other men choose how to trust you based on your willingness to be tethered to a family unit, because unmarried men are perceived to be wild, unpredictable, and immature. I'm not going to say what my thoughts on that are, just try to stick to the observations that I've seen in the workplace. But I have seen it myself that as soon as a man gets married, then promotions start coming, the raises start coming, because people assume, okay, now you have a family to be responsible for. You in the club, and you very rarely, like, you haven't, I don't think we've ever had a president who wasn't married. I don't think there can't be more than 5 CEOs on the Fortune 500 who are not married. Or if they are unmarried now, is because they probably got divorced recently. Most very wealthy to high net worth individuals, they are all married, prioritize marriage. Interestingly enough, I saw this clip floating around, and I'm not a Trump supporter at all, but this clip was fascinating to me because it was clearly from a different time in his life. He was on the Wendy Williams show, and this lady stood up, when Wendy Williams used to be asking people questions in the audience, and this lady stood up and was like, it was a black lady. She said, I make a lot of money working in finance, and my boyfriend gets jealous because he think I'm cheating on him. How can I convince him that I'm not? So Donald Trump goes, well, if how can I put it? I'm trying to summarize what he said without going off course. Essentially, he was saying, first of all, if he that worried about you cheating and you making all the money, like, this ain't gonna work out, because this is a person that is money minded. And Wendy Williams was not like, yeah, because of course we all know now Wendy Williams is the breadwinner in her marriage too. But I was fascinated by what he said at the end, which was, why or have y'all been together so long and you're not married? And she had no answer. She was like, that's another conversation, da da da. And him and Wendy Williams both looked like, huh. And I was like, wow. Again, we're going to put politics to the side for a second. I want y'all to pay attention to something. Donald Trump, as a businessman, has never been unmarried. Like he didn't go from girlfriend to girlfriend. The man has gone from wife to wife. Now, all of the specifics of how that happened, again, we gonna ignore all of that because that's a moral and ethical conversation. But the process of saying no, marriage is a priority. When you think about everybody, I mean, even Bill Gates, he and Melinda Gates are divorced now, but you could tell that that really, really affected him. I might have been CNBC. He was almost crying, talking about, I know I went too far. Like, men who make a lot of money, they cannot afford to have to date around. That is a waste of time and an inefficiency in both time and money. Because when you have to constantly get to know new people, that costs you time and money. And they are folks who count every second. Every second is accounted for because every second for them has a dollar amount. And I can give you an example of that even from my own life. I don't do coffee dates, right? Now, this ain't what it's about. So don't be trying to get distracted on that. But I don't do coffee dates anymore. And part of why I don't do coffee dates anymore is not because the 15 minutes is not the best investment of my time. It is because I know how much an hour of my time is quite literally worth because I set my price. So an hour of my time could be upwards of, depending on the service that I'm offering for my clients. So if it is a certain type of strategic advisory session or workforce planning executive session, training, that's $2,500. In some cases, that could be up to 5 bands, depending on what I'm doing. And for me, the hour's going to take to get ready because I don't care if it's just coffee. I'm not showing up to a date any kind of way. The time I'm going to take to dry there, to sit there for them little 15 minutes, 20 minutes, and then drive home, get under, like, it's not worth it, right? Because I know my worth, because I set my worth myself, I am keenly aware of my time. I count inefficiencies. That's part of why I work with systems and things like how quickly can I get this done to move on to this other thing. High net worth individuals think the same way. Minutes count. Even when folks have free time to do deep thinking, reading, that is usually calculated in a day. So that's my time from 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. That's my time from 9 p.m. to 11 p.m. because I'm getting ready to go to bed. Time matters because time quite literally converts to your money. And I'm really driving this point home because I know there's going to be some people in there. That's the capitalist master. Yeah, it is. But I'm driving this home because as a man, a young black man, you are going to be in environments that require you to have, if not agree with it and move like that, have a deep understanding of that. And if you don't understand that, you're going to struggle. So even if you decide to live in a different way, that's cool, but you have to like get that. I really need you to get this. Time is converted to money and money is counted. So your time is counted. When you are ungrounded in a family structure, that steals your time and money. It is nice to know this is the person that I'm with. I know when this person's birthday is, so I can measure my budget based off of we got to have such and such amount of money, thousands, hundreds, whatever, set aside for the birthday trip or the birthday party. I have this many children and they're only in this household. So I only pay one mortgage. I only pay one phone bill. I only pay one daycare bill, right? All of these are things that are very important because when you have to pull too much time and too much money, that is pulling away in a brain drain, and you're not going to be able to maximize your potential in your career. It's just not going to happen. I can't think of too many men who successfully navigate having kids in a whole bunch of households or who date around all the time. I don't care what social media tell you. I'm saying this to you as a person who has been an executive coach for years, who has sat in rooms with CEOs advising them. None of them, even, oh, I know I'm going to get handed to me, but saying this, even a lot of times, if they are stepping out of their marriage, they have one mistress. They got one person that they doing stuff with. Like, they're just not moving reckless like that because it is a distraction. The other part to this, and this is getting a lot of people caught up, is you will find that it is a security risk. So having a family, and there's a lot of research that shows this too, having a family is a security measure because you have less risk of your business getting out there. You usually have a fairly stable friend group because of the marriage. Because let me say this, as a person who was formerly married, you have an identity, your wife has an identity, and those are two individual identities, but then the marriage has an identity. And even if you had friends before, each of you gonna make friends as a married couple, and your individual friends will come to also be friends of the marriage, because the rhythm of when you go out, the rhythm of even your bedtime, the rhythm of when you trap, like all of that changes when you get married to accommodate the new group structure. So with that being said, you are probably seeking that type of stability in your marriage to have a stable friend group. So marriages and relationships in general stabilize your life in immeasurable ways. This is another reason why folks who are very powerful in their careers, who earn a lot, they prioritize that type of stability because, again, when you go out into the market in the business world, all of that stuff is all over the place. You can't control that, and you expect that turbulence, but your whole life can't be turbulence. So ground yourself. So with that being said, by the time you hit 30, right, in addition to prioritizing, if you haven't already gotten into a stable family structure, you also want to start thinking about your health, and especially with mental health, because remember, you were a child for 18 years. You're probably at least a little reckless, and it don't have to get totally out of control, but you just make bad decisions in your 20s, period. You're an adult for the first time. By 30, you're starting to realize that you got issues. And so if you haven't already, you want to start seeing a therapist. You need to have a primary care physician, because issues that may have even been pre-existing or genetic conditions, they are easier to address the younger you are. Your body can heal itself faster. It is more resilient. It often has more vitality. By the time you start getting toward 40, it's harder to course correct stuff. It's not impossible, but it's difficult. And so it could be as simple as like, you know what, I get anxious a lot. Okay, do you have anxiety disorder? Well, let's go see somebody about that and find out. Let's go get tested to see if we have ADHD. Let's go get tested to see if you suffer from major depressive disorder. All of these things matter because, again, you can start to treat it and still have plenty of time to live your best life. That's another thing that I noticed for a lot of older Black men, and it has come up in some of the other episodes when I talk to Tariq and Clay, because a lot of Black men just have issues that went untreated. And some of it, a lot of it may not even be their fault. If you grew up in poverty and you had all of these issues in your family, yeah, that's going to be a problem. If you maybe you grew up affluent, but you went to college and experienced a whole lot of discrimination, yeah, that's going to affect you. Maybe you experienced a temporary or permanent disability. You were in an accident or something happened to your health. That stuff affects you, and you need support to navigate through that. So again, 30 to 35 is essentially, you call that figuring out what's wrong with you, and then go on from there. Once you figure out what's wrong with you and what's going on, then you can test out different treatment options so that by the time you get to 35, you are grounded enough in that. So now you can really focus on maximizing building financial assets and stability. And also between 30 and 35, not just mental health, but also your physical health. So I alluded to that, but I want to explicitly say that. So things like workout regimens, even finding what type of exercise you like, because every type of exercise is not for everybody, right? Like maybe them HIIT workouts, they're not for you. Maybe you like more things like yoga or martial arts. Whatever your thing is, you can experiment and test that out. And arguably, it might be a little cheaper for you to do it because it's easier for you to navigate through it because your body is a little bit more virile. So by the time you get to 35, this is when you're working on really building those assets. If you are not a homeowner by that time, if you don't have a 401k, if you don't have some type of health savings account, a pension, starting to save for retirement, that is the time to do that. Please If you have children by that time, you should be putting money away for their college funds or just for their, after high school funds. So whatever they're doing, you will be able to have money to invest in that because that comes up quicker than you think. That is also the time where, again, you want to start getting grounded in your household expenses, so your personal budget. And that's why I mentioned home ownership. I know people are on the fence about that. They don't know if they want to do it. But I know for me, being a homeowner has been one of the main ways I've been able to build my business, period, because my household expenses are stable. My mortgage doesn't change except to go down. To be honest, up to this point, it spiked a little bit. I think by maybe $50 or $100 because my taxes went up, but it wasn't the, $700, $800, $1,000 increases I was seeing with people with rent, because when you rent, you paying whatever your landlord say you should pay. So for me, again, being a homeowner has been critical to business ownership and business growth because I'm not having my profits eaten up by an explosive personal budget. It's fairly stable. So that's something to think about. That's one of the reasons why I personally push home ownership to folks, especially folks I know who are entrepreneurs. And then two, houses are assets that you can buy and sell. So even if you bought a house and you're like, I don't like this, if you buy smart, you can sell it for a profit and get the money, right? So that's not something that I wouldn't take that lightly. I'll put it like that. My strategy for buying has been to go low maintenance, high equity. And I find that a lot of new construction homes give that. One of the reasons why they are able to provide that is especially if you buy early in the build. So I bought my house in what's considered phase one. That means the first phase of homes that were being built in my subdivision. So I got equity off of all the other homes that came after me because they raised the price by so much after they built so many homes. And so that's one of the main ways that I got so much equity in my house. I got neighbors who bought like in the first 20 properties. Fam, they literally doubled their money because at the height of the market, it was literally double the price in some of the other phases that were for sale than it was for them first couple. And people was just selling like crazy. And they got out of there, like I said, with twice the money that they put in. And especially if you got a good real estate agent or you even represent yourself, you could be good, Gucci. So again, that's something to consider too. There are a million ways to make your money work for you. But 35 is the age where you really want to get serious about that. It's also where you want to start being intentional about the types of raises and promotions you get. So I've talked about this, I think, with job architecture. I can't remember. But anyway, the point is you can move your title and your money simultaneously, or they can move at different levels. But the key is that you should have a mapped out plan of how you want that to go. So I'll just use my career as an example. There were times where I kept the same money. So let's say I was making $70,000, just for example, but I got a promotion to being a manager and having a team. That title jump meant more for me in that moment than money. And then there were other times where I moved, let's say, only one step or one level, but I got a significant pay increase. And that could be because I moved to another geographic region, worked for bigger companies, whatever the case may be. So again, don't just rely on your jobs to plot that out for you. You be intentional about what your money needs to look like. Please go do your research. There are a ton of resources available, and I'll try to remember to put them in the chat. The Bureau of Labor Statistics, the Occupational Outlook Handbook, or OOH, has a ton of resources that talks about the average wages for careers. I know salary.com, indeed.com. What's another one? There are a few websites that provide median wages and range and salary ranges. I think ADP might even have some resources too, but they provide that information so you can see how much a job would pay versus the next level of that job. One way that I built my money fast, maybe faster than expected, is by being willing to relocate. So initially I was working in smaller markets, what would be considered smaller markets, but by moving to markets that I knew would pay a lot, I was able to bump my money up and create a new floor. And thankfully, even though I ended up moving to places that technically paid less, because my floor was this amount, I didn't have to take a pay cut because the floor was, let's say, 130,000 by that time. because I was used to getting paid New York money or LA money. And at that point, as we talking about with mastery, I had been building so much skills, education, credentials, certificates, etc., that I was in demand talent and they wanted to keep me. So they were willing to pay 20,000 or 30,000 more to get my knowledge and my skills, even though the location didn't warrant that kind of pay. So again, I know that's a lot here. The key takeaways from that part: 35 and up, it's about you maximizing your money and your earning potential and your financial assets. And that could be through home ownership, as well as retirement savings, making sure that you have a solid grasp on that. And then also you want to be very intentional about how you move both your money and your titles and levels. So that could mean you taking a title or level jump and maybe not too much money. And then next time you go for the big money jump. And one way that you can do that is to be willing to relocate if necessary to benefit from geo-based compensation. All right. Final thing I'll say, by the time you get to 40, 40 is a funny age. And it's really funny because I turned 40 in March. I'm seeing a lot of my peers, especially for us as millennials and younger Gen X, we are having to parent our parents. And in addition to having kids, because a lot of people have kids much later now, in addition to having children, folks are having to do a lot of caregiving for other people in their family. So as early as possible, but definitely by age 35, you need to have eyes on your whole family, not just your mom, your dad. I'm talking about aunts, uncles, siblings, nieces and nephews, little cousins who you grew up real close with, because all of those relationships and those people's financial stability, their health, their overall stability, their bad decisions could end up having a significant impact on you. So if you are one of 5 kids and you know all your siblings are bums and make bad decisions, guess what? Don't even play yourself. You're going to have to end up making sure that mama and daddy get the care they need. And if you live in another state, or if you live far away, or you have a bunch of kids yourself, that's going to have an impact on you. So you're going to have to prepare. I think a lot of us didn't expect that, in part because grandparents and elderly experiences have changed dramatically. Like when I was a kid, my grandmother had already retired because she went out on medical retirement to take care of her husband. He wasn't my mom's dad, and he passed before I was born. So she had been retired for years because she took care of him until his passing. And so I never saw my grandma go to work. Like literally, if she didn't go to church, the doctor's office, or the grocery store, she was at home. So that was built-in babysit. Like when I say I would be with my grandma all the time, like my mother just never had to worry about that. Most of the people who I knew, their grandparents were like that too. Like we joke about it online, but it's real. Millennials and younger Gen X would be with our grandparents all the time. If it wasn't our grandparents, it was aunties and uncles to be with our cousins. Like there was just a huge community-based care system. And that safety net has gone because a lot of elderly people still have to work to survive because they just don't have the financial security that they had. So unfortunately, that idyllic situation where your grandma take care of your kid, baby, you probably not gonna have that. And so you'll have to plan for that. I'm seeing dementia and Alzheimer's on the rise. That's something that runs in my family too. That requires specialized care. Of course, y'all know cancer rates, mortality rates of other stress-related illnesses or other environmentally impacted illnesses. Like all of that stuff is on the rise. So again, with scanning your family, be honest with yourself. You don't have to tell people, but you just know within you. You know what? I got 10 cousins. All of them is bums, and each of them got 2 kids. It's possible I might have to help out with school uniforms with at least half of them, right? Like, it's sad that you have to think about that. But if you don't think about it, that's going to weigh on you. And that's going to be a drain on your brain and your money and your time. So that's all I got for you. That should take you till about 40. I think that's where I'll stop for now. But again, maximize those phases. Sometimes it's going to be a health focus. Sometimes it's money focus. Sometimes it's relationship focus. Sometimes it's career focus. It's life. That's just adulthood. You always got something that you need to be working on. You should never be idle. You should never be stagnant. Pursue growth. Pursue continuous improvement. pursue mastery. All right, what y'all think? What does mastery mean to you? What age are you? What phase of life are you in? And what are some things that you're looking to be able to maximize in this phase? Let me know down in the comments. And of course, be sure to like, share, and subscribe. I'll catch y'all in the next one. Bye.